Welcome to another episode of The Intellect, Youth with the Nation at Heart. My name is Daniel Adaja, and on today's episode of The Intellect, we are having a conversation on living beyond the pandemic. It is important that we have conversations like this with the fact that post-COVID-19, a lot still needs to be done in our dear country. Joining me in this conversation is business consultant Mogbolu Nmakanma. How are you doing?
I'm very fine, thank you.
It's good to have you.
Thank you for
having me. A lot
me.
has been happening since this pandemic started, and a lot of businesses have been affected. The economy as a nation and even as a globe is also being affected by this pandemic. But we are hopeful that this pandemic would pass and we would have to start all over again.
Yeah.
And that's why this conversation is very important, living beyond the pandemic. Let's start off with investments. It is as important as anything to grow any economy. We see where countries are always looking for investors to come into their country to develop their economy and also their businesses. But in a time like this that we find ourselves, how smart a decision is it for anybody to go into investments?
A lot of people are not doing that. Even a lot of companies with a lot of cash at hand are not investing. They are thinking of downsizing, thinking of reducing salaries. Everybody is thinking of how to save money, not necessarily how to invest money. Then the period of the corona, we do not know honestly how long it's going to last. Some countries are planning 4 months for the lockdown. Some countries are planning 1 or 2 years to live with corona post this lockdown period. So the truth is we really don't know. A lot of experts can speculate, but that's the best they can really do, just speculation. There's nothing that really tells us, okay, the cure is going to be ready by this time. Everybody's going to have the vaccine by this time. We don't even have a date for the vaccine yet. So how do you invest without knowing those things?
You know, for innovations right now, for young people or startups who have like great ideas or innovations as we speak, how then do they get investment? In a time like this, maybe you have a very brilliant idea and then you are also looking for ways to pin down certain investors and everybody's telling you, oh, okay, let's wait till after the pandemic.
I think the best thing would be keep your ideas for now. Ideas that do not revolve around food. For Nigeria in particular, any idea that doesn't revolve around food or distribution of palliatives or helping us get accurate data for our citizens, it's not really useful right now. Because that's the priority, getting food to people right now so that we can have an actual effective lockdown.
Okay, now talking about effective lockdown, there has been a long need in our country for comprehensive data, which is something that is so important for us as a country, but that has not been effective. Now, this pandemic has exposed the fact that we really need a data, and the last time a national census was done was 2006, and that's a long time ago to this very moment.
And there were rumors of inflated figures because of financial allocation of those based on those census figures. Now that's the problem, getting people to get data for you who are not specialists, who are not experts, who do not understand the simple accuracy of data, how important it can be. Data is so important to us because right now, how do you get the families that are earning below 100,000 a month, below 50,000 a month? Those are the people that really need money and palliatives right now. How do you get in touch with them? Where's the data for them? Where, after you get the data, where is the bank information? How many of them actually have bank accounts? Do you have their BVNs? The complaint has been NCDC can send me message, but they cannot send me money. How do you expect people to stay in their houses when they cannot get food? They are going to break lockdown curfew. They are going to do anything they can to get food. We've seen that severally in Lagos and other places where the lockdown has started. People are casually going out as if nothing is happening to get food to eat. And there's no way we can overcome that. Now you look at the distribution of palliatives. How do you ensure that every single community or every family in every community gets food? How do you calculate how much food you are giving them, quantity for a family to survive? How long is this pandemic? We don't know. How long can you feed your nation for? We can't even say 2 weeks.
Just to ask out of curiosity, what could have been our major problem with regards to having a very comprehensive or collected data?
You have situations where, let's look at other countries that have this data. Let's look at, most Nigerians will tell you Canada is our second home, or most youths. So let's look at Canada. Canada has this accurate data. What did they do with it? First of all, for the workers, they just said 55% of your income last year, because they have your information where you pay your tax and things like that. 55% of your income last year was taken into consideration. Cost of living was taken into consideration. The availability of universal health care was taken into consideration. So first of all, adults were giving $2,000 a month, 2,000 Canadian dollars a month for 4 months, because they expect the lockdown to last for 4 months and be effective. Now, how are they ensuring that this lockdown is going to be effective? They are giving people money,
Okay.
So you want money, Abi? That's why Lagosians are leaving the house to go and look for money. The government is giving you a lot of money for the next 4 months to stay in your house. The government also said students were not actually eligible for the entire $2,000. So an extra provision of $300 a month was made for students. Do Nigerians make such concessions to students? If I'm correct, ASU is still on strike since January in 2020. ASU is still on strike. And you are talking about online education when the people that are going to educate people are still on strike. No data.
It is so worrying, the fact that this data is as important as anything that can be with regards to the development of any nation. But there are some other aspects of the economy that has been affected, like globally. Like we cannot talk about the fact that the oil price has dropped drastically. Take, for example, Nigeria. Before the whole pandemic started, we're selling a barrel at $56 per barrel.
Yeah, our benchmark at 50.
Benchmark at 50, and now we have dropped drastically to below $20 per barrel, which is very worrisome. But something comes to mind when we talk about our gas reserves, which is, why have we not done so much in exploring positively to add to the benefits of every Nigerian with our gas reserves?
That's the funny thing, because gas reserves, we have about 202 trillion cubic feet of gas doing nothing. That's our reserves, really. And we produce about 300 million cubic feet per year. Okay. Out of that 300 million, 40% goes into domestic use, 40% is exported, and 10% is wasted. Let's not even forget the flaring of gas. President Mohamed Buhari has assured us that his administration will end flaring of gas by 2020 because of what is happening around the world. And we respect that decision, but with this lockdown and with this economic situation, is that really possible? Is that feasible? So we'll see how that goes. But definitely the gas is here to stay, and we should explore it more, because that is one of the reasons why power generation was able to rise from 3,000 megawatts to 5,000 megawatts, of which that is still poor compared to a country like South Africa, who is doing 30,000 megawatts already. We are lagging behind, and it's really, really costing us, especially with manufacturers.
That is also the major issue with the fact that we have placed so much attention on our oil sector, and we focus so much on production and not the finished good. Because every time I have this conversation with people, I always make them understand that the reason why we have not been able to do so much, because one of the former senators at the National Assembly, Dino Milai, said we have been producing oil for the past 65 years, or we've been exporting oil for the past 65 years, and we can't feed our nation in the last 2 years. The question is, how many refineries do we have working effectively? People would not, as much as people appreciate the fact that Africa has gold, but how many places in Africa right now can say that they
have effective gold mines
to refine these golds and make them into finished product, which is what is the issue with most of our natural resources. It is very worrying. I was listening to a particular stat that says, why is $1 equivalent to almost 400 naira, or maybe as at that time it was about 350 naira to $1, when we are the ones who actually have the things, and then we are selling to these people? Well,
Africa is a funny nation. We sell the raw materials for pennies, and the finished products are sold for a lot. Take, for example, coffee, cocoa, and the finished product coffee or caffeine. The cocoa is bought for for pennies on the dollar, really. But look at a country like Switzerland, who has made its mark in chocolates. That cocoa is gotten from Africa. But do you see a share of that wealth that Switzerland has in Africa? You do not. So there needs to be collective bargaining from Africa as a whole. And we say, okay, this is the price we set for these raw materials, because we are being ripped off. That is the truth. We are being ripped off.
Still the intellect, youth with the nation at heart, and we are having a conversation on living beyond the pandemic. And still talking about the manufacturing industry. It's a lot of things that we have to still talk about. This pandemic has exposed how much we need to be a manufacturing nation.
Yes, we really do. We are not even food sufficient. Talkers of exporting to make money. Over the past months, there has been 30,000 tons of cocoa stored at the ports, unable to leave the country. Money wasting. So the means of transportation, the value chain, getting these goods to the final consumers, it's almost non-existent in Nigeria. You have bad roads that are so bad, your truck drivers and truck managers are calling you first at different sites before the business even starts to check how good the road is, or rather how bad it is. Because they know it's bad, they just don't know how bad it is. And depending on how bad the road is, the price is going up.
Now, linking manufacturing with the power sector, which is something that we cannot separate both from
Yeah.
each other, a lot of industrialization is ongoing, and the power sector is what is affecting the manufacturing industry. And from time immemorial, we can see that we have had manufacturing companies leave Nigeria for neighboring countries because
Yeah,
of the issue
it's
of
a
power.
shame, really. It's a shame. We keep losing manufacturing companies to countries that are the size of 2-3 states, which is rubbish, really. Okay, let's take a look at Ghana.
Okay.
Ghana, for instance, has gotten a manufacturing deal with Toyota. So Toyota is going to go to Ghana, open up a big manufacturing company and start producing cars. But at the end of the day, Toyota themselves know that the final market is not Ghana. That kind of investment is not meant for Ghana. So the final consumers of those cars being made in Ghana is still Nigeria.
Okay.
Because by their calculation, it is cheaper to start in Ghana, finish and export into Nigeria. That for them is cheaper than staying in Nigeria and buying generators to power their plants. So you can see, and that's not even the companies we've lost already to neighboring countries. So that's not even the future foreign investment we are going to lose. Because Samsung came with 3 mega factories to Africa. None was coming to Nigeria. Still on power. Because it doesn't make sense that you are drafting a business plan for the next 3-5 years and you are calculating money for generator, money for diesel. Who does that? Only in Nigeria. And that power alone can fix more than the manufacturing sector alone. It can even drive down the cost of data drastically. Other countries are enjoying free data during this period, but we cannot afford that. There are a lot of things we cannot afford in the country because of lack of infrastructure. Simple and straight.
What can the government do with regards to improving this particular manufacturing sector and trying to win back some of these manufacturers that we already had before?
I would say gas is the solution. Our reserves hit 202 trillion, 202 trillion cubic feet about a year ago, I think 2019, and it's set to rise by 70% by 2025. So what are we doing now? What are we putting in place now to make sure that when the rise is eventually there, we capitalize?
Now, the fact that the economy is actually harsh is also worrying, with the fact that a lot of businesses have had to close down and a lot of companies have had to lay down workers in this very particular moment. What are the kind of businesses people would actually go into at this kind of time, and we can begin to see taking up new innovations and also with very low risks at this particular time?
The most important aspect of that is essential services. We need to look at companies that provide essential services. They have not been touched they have been touched, but they have not been really compromised by this coronavirus period. And there are companies that have work from home policies in place already. They have already improved their processes. They have fine-tuned all of that. They have automated a lot of their processes already. So some companies like insurance companies, they don't really need you to come there. So companies like that will not really suffer. So those are what we need to look at. Companies that are surviving during this period and how they are surviving. Then you have the young people of the country who are very innovative, who came out with massive designs for the face mask. You have governors matching their face masks now with their attires. The Akwa Ibom governor, Sanwo-Olu, looking good. Some people have more daring designs. They are all doing photo shoots now, promoting their businesses. No committee was set up for them. No special exemption was given to them. Normally, in a situation like this, you should be encouraging people to produce things like that. There was a period where Innocent was discussing about producing ventilators, and some Nigerians were clamoring that he produce it free of charge to be a patriotic citizen, as if that would give him the money to buy the equipment he needs, because that's not what he produces naturally. So those are the directions we need to be heading into. How do we optimize the power sector in the country? And really, from gas companies, we need to poach companies that specialize in gas or electricity. That is really going to save the country, because we have a lot of gas being underutilized and being wasted. A lot of people don't even know that your gas, the gas cylinder that you have for cooking gas, that gas can power generators. There are a lot of places that sell these pump converters, where you can either use fuel or you can convert it, you turn it the other way, you're using gas. If you can eliminate just the fuel being used by generators in Nigeria alone, that is a lot, because we import this fuel and we produce this gas locally. So if we can reduce our imports and increase our domestic consumption, that is going to be great for us, especially coming out of this economic situation, because a lot of countries are going to be looking to offload a lot of goods. And at that point in time, if we do what we say we're going to do and improve our gas usage and gas consumption and reduce our imports, the Naira it shouldn't be there, but it should get to a comfortable point where we can start making good decisions for us. Take, for example, Madagascar. Madagascar has used their cure to acquire trade deals for themselves. So if we are in a comfortable situation post-corona or as corona is ending, we are in a good position to make good deals for the betterment of all of us.
Thank you. All right, as we wrap up this conversation, what are the lessons you have learned so far with this particular pandemic experience that the world and even Nigeria specifically is going through?
Okay, this is a wonderful question for me because up until this point, we have been begging our politicians and the wealthy to please invest in Nigeria. We have been begging. In fact, the UK government has threatened Nigerians severally that they are going to release a list of Nigerians who own properties abroad, right? They've been saying that for years. America has also said that for years. But now we don't need to beg them anymore. Now we've all seen that the next one is going to be worse than this one. Ebola was worse than Corona, and now we're in Corona. And now we can see that all the nations, whenever something hits like this again, all the nations are going to close their borders. So if you are not self-sufficient as at that point in time, like we are, you are going to be in trouble. Because now we can't even get food. Talk less of other, because we import almost everything. Our borders are closed, we're in trouble. So at least Nigerians and everybody is learning right now that every single time, the most important thing should be your home country. Everything should be set up in your home country. We are looking for how to fly people abroad now with medical emergencies. There are people that have legit medical emergencies that cannot go abroad for treatment. We are all stuck here. Now, this should drive investment in Nigeria, and hopefully it will.
Still the intellect, youth with the nation at heart, and we're still having a conversation on living beyond the pandemic. Now, there are a lot of businesses that young people are looking to invest in, but they also want to be on the low risk part of this particular businesses. Do you think there are businesses that young people can put their money in at this time that would still yield profit?
Yeah, definitely. I think we should be looking at three things. Comfort, convenience, and necessity. What can you do to bring comfort to the millions of people who are staying in their homes during this period and who are experiencing difficulty? So how can you make things more convenient for people? You know, because people are really panicked during this period. They are trying to take less risk as much as possible. Then necessity. What are things that people absolutely need this period? So these are the three things you need to think about. And with that in mind, we'll start with delivery service. The delivery service within the past month alone has grown. That sector has really grown. Yes. Then you have some bikes being the bikes that are no longer able to take customers from place to place. The OPay and they are all being converted to delivery vehicles, and the business is moving. You have even people that own shops who used to make use of delivery service now owning delivery vehicles and outsourcing as well. So that is another place that is really growing right now, and I feel people should really put their money there because it's a safe investment, because at the end of the day, you can always sell the bike. But
is there no government policy that at some point might not be in favor of this delivery service?
That is the risk you take with every business. Just any day the government can change their policy, especially in Nigeria where things are volatile. Anything can change at any time.
All right.
Nobody believed those hailing services, those bike hailing services would go down within 2 years. But look at it. It's the risk of business, and there's nothing that can be done about that. Then you look at business consulting during this period. A lot of people are going to need advice, at least from nations or businesses who have pulled through during this period, or who are surviving better than others, you know. And there are experts leading that direction as well. So
and I think there are also certifications for some of these business consultations.
Oh, definitely. You can get a lot of them online. Yeah, definitely. Then you have cleaning services. Cleaning services are really up this period because you have more people around in buildings right now, and you need to clean every inch of the place with proper disinfectant. So that's a lot for a lot of people. And it's better you just outsource it to cleaning services who are already equipped for this. No need managing or micromanaging. The risk is too great. Human lives are at risk, so the risk is too great. It's best you outsource those companies. And you yourself, you can get yourself retrofitted. You can get former guys that used to be in this business or guys that are just starting the business. Get together with them, start something, get your orders. Then you start looking for more customers. Grocery shopping. People can't go grocery shopping anymore. It's dangerous. It's really dangerous. If you enter the supermarket before a grocery store, you can be in there with like 20, 30 people, all walking around, enjoying yourself. Some people even taking pictures. But these days, you need to be as careful as possible. You need to go to the markets as little as possible. Go there 2-3 times a week maximum. That's how we should be. So we should be looking at ways where we can go grocery shopping with our phones. That is already being done in developed nations. I should be able to pick up my phone, go to the store I like, other things, and it be delivered to me.
And I think one of the most important thing about this grocery shopping, like you've said, and even people looking at going into this business is the fact that it is almost like totally dependent on you trusting the person, because you're sending money, the expecting person to pick the right types of, or the right quality of what you want, and that way it helps you to like just trust people better.
It depends on who is running the business. If it's a company running the business, you can always trust the brand of a company and the image of a company. If it comes to individuals, we've had individuals who have been doing this for years. Well, those individuals can also come together and blow it up, you know? Come together, set up a company, start massive advertising. They already have the clientele already. They just need a brand name that people can recognize. So that is another one. And we have queuing. It might be funny, but there are queuing apps needed. You might be thinking to yourself, what do you need queuing apps for? But I would like to remind you, the Monday the lockdown was lifted in Lagos and Ogun, if you see the crowd at banks, pushing each other. Then there was this bank where the first 10 people in line did not have accounts with the bank. They did not come there to do any transaction whatsoever. They only came there to keep their space in line so that they can pounce on the latecomers and offer them 10,000 naira per slot. That's a useless waste of time, if you ask me, honestly speaking. You can get your line, your space in the queue from the comfort of your home before coming out and get a time.
Can we blame that on digitalization, that maybe banks have not fully digitalized?
I would say there has been no need for it, but now it's an absolute necessity. Apart from Zenith Bank, who started their safe banking initiative by putting canopies and waiting areas outside their banks, not a lot of people have that initiative. So we need to put things like this in place, not just for private organizations like banks. We need to take it and put it in public organizations and public buildings. Places where you go, your INEC card, it takes forever to get a seat. International passport, driver's license, things like that. We should be able to queue and get space and get a time before you even leave your house. You can book it 2-3 weeks in advance. If we have that, I'm sure.
Like doing a flight ticket.
Like doing a flight ticket, exactly. If we had that, I'm sure more people will have their voters' cards by now. I'm sure the government wants us to vote more, don't they?
All right, still the intellect youth with the nation at heart. As we wrap up this conversation, one key thing you have learned personally from this pandemic?
One key thing I've learned that at every given turn, you must always invest in your country first. Always, always. Because we can see now we're not even food sufficient. Talk less of owning enough wealth to last us through 3 months of lockdown. It's really, really bad. The sectors are all in shambles. Closed down, looking for money, looking for investors, and nothing forthcoming so far. So we must always invest at home first.
Thank you for being part of today's episode of The Intellect, Youth with the Nation at Heart. To our guest, Mogbolu Nmakanma, the business consultant, who emphasized a lot on so many things today. Please do not forget, for more information, log on to our website, and you can follow us on all our social media platforms at The Intellect TV Show. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for that tour. Welcome to Business Crest. My name is Godqueen Anike, and today we'll be focusing and talking a little bit about a very popular personality that goes by the name Gabrielle Bonheur Coco Chanel. Gabrielle Bonheur Coco Chanel was a French fashion designer and a businesswoman. She catered for women's taste for elegance in shoes, bags, clothes, perfumes, and what have you, and they served worldwide. Coco Chanel was originated in the year 1909, and she was known for liberating women, thereby creating a scent that changed the way women smell. 90 years later, guess what? Chanel No. 5 perfume is arguably still the world's most iconic perfume. And last but not the least, she's worth over $100 million, guys. This is what every business person should look up to. Till we meet again, guys. See you. Do not forget to follow us on all our social media platforms down the screen.